and welcome to Belmont News Now and Community Update. I'm your host, Maribel Carvajal de Salazar. Today we are welcoming Cosmo Macero, Belmont resident, journalist, writer, moderator of the Facebook group Networking Belmont and Watertown, and also Justice of Peace. Cosmo, welcome.
Maribel, thanks so much for having me. It's a pleasure to be here on Belmont Journal.
Thank you. Let's talk first about your Facebook group. You created in November 2019 and already has 520 members. What made you create the group?
Thank you. It's something I started because in my field and just sort of in my life, I think networking is really important, and I've been involved in different types of networking over the years. And I thought it'd be a good little project to start a group focused around Belmont and Watertown connections, meaning people that live in the communities, people who went to school in either community, people who have businesses in the communities, and people anywhere really in the country or the world who have a connection. It didn't really, it started off as a small project. And then once the COVID-19 pandemic hit, I thought this would be a really good resource to help people who might need support, either recovering economically, looking for a career move, trying to rebuild their business, rebuild a local business. And I appreciate that you're impressed by the 500 and some odd members. I really love to grow it much larger and much bigger, but it has grown steadily each week with a couple of new members, and it's great. I look at it as a community resource on Facebook, Belmont Watertown Networking, and I hope more people will get involved and contribute content.
Correct. And who can participate?
Pretty much, I mean, different groups, I think, have different standards for acceptance. I would describe the standards here as pretty friendly, pretty forgiving. If you have a reasonable connection to either Belmont or Watertown, then you're probably suitable for membership. If you're interested in advancing your career, your profession, promoting a business or a local business, or just meeting people for networking purposes. And a connection to either community, there's a lot of them, right? It's, again, do you live there? Do you work in either community? Have you lived or worked there? Do you have family there? Did you go to school in Belmont or Watertown? It's a pretty open-ended standard, but it is by acceptance, like most groups are.
And why you want to make it just Belmont and Watertown and not the other neighboring communities?
Well, because it's a great question. It's because the two communities have a real strong connection, not just by being near each other. There's just a lot of interaction between the two communities, between people. There's a traditional kind of rivalry. That's kind of the theme behind the photo, which is the Belmont Watertown football game. And I felt like it was a good starting point for a networking group. I'm part of a lot of networking groups, including one, by the way, that has 50,000 members worldwide, started by a naval officer who I think lives in Arizona. So there's all types of networking. I just thought this was an interesting way to capitalize on that connection between those communities. Doesn't mean that it would be limited to that forever, but I think it's been a strong way to leverage that relationship between Belmont and Watertown.
Correct. And what are your moderation rules? And if you have to keep applying them?
Yeah, it's a great question. We've been fortunate that the level of discourse is really almost always very positive, very promotional. It's not really designed to be like a Yelp, like a review site. We're not really trying to get people to complain about a bad experience they had. It's really all about supporting and helping businesses, professionals, individuals, and be promotional as well as informational, and to be a resource. In terms of the rules, be kind, be friendly, be courteous. The standard Facebook group rules certainly all apply. Promotional stuff is invited. I ask people, or encourage people, that if they're promoting their own enterprise, their own business, or their own professional practice, that they also find someone else in the group who they can then promote and really share information about others. We've had success in helping people locate career opportunities. We've had I'm a media person, and I'm a sort of a part-time journalist too. I've been able to write articles about members in their businesses for different venues that I write for. I'd like to expand on that. I really want it to be a group that is a touch point for anyone in the who joins, that can really help them succeed and accelerate the growth of their business or their profession.
This activity that you mentioned, that you make a video about a member, is it a pay activity, or you promote it to a member that wants to become a member? It's just a free.
It's not a paid activity. Honestly, I'm always looking for good ideas. I'm always looking um, for good stories. I write articles for a mobile news platform. It's called Newsbreak. It's actually one of the fastest growing mobile news apps in America, and I'm always looking for good ideas, people to profile. So that's the currency for me. If you've got a good story to tell about something you're doing in the community, or your business, or a story of human triumph, I'm all ears, and I'd love to help you tell that story, just as someone that likes to share good narratives and good articles with people. So no, it's not really a paid thing. It's just something that I do, that's part of my my own professional profile.
Awesome. That sounds really interesting. And if you want to become a member, just go click like on the group, and that will be it.
Absolutely, it'll there's a join button, and then you'll uh, the moderator, that's me, will get a notice, and chances are, if you fit the relatively low bar for entry, and you're serious about contributing, you'll absolutely be accepted. By the way, I know this is Belmont Journal. I would love to have another moderator join, or maybe even a couple, and certainly one that has a strong connection to Watertown, right? Belmont's represented pretty well by myself, but I'd like to have others join, and maybe have a couple of other moderators to create more content and grow the membership. I'd love to get the membership not just doubled. I'd love to get the membership to 1,500 by the end of this year. So that'd be tripling the membership. I think it can be done.
Have you been doing some Zoom meetings or personal meetings before or after COVID?
That's a great question and a great idea, Maribel. I'd love on the networking page for us to organize some Zoom meetups, some Zoom networking events. It's something that I actually do in other groups. Haven't really organized them yet. Wanted to get the content going, and but we've been around for over a year now, so I'd like to do that, and I think I will. I'll try to organize that, and certainly would invite you to participate.
I'll be there. Thank you. Also, that brought to us attention is that you are a former journalist, a writer, and a justice of peace. So, what brought you into that business?
Yeah, so I was a journalist for many years, going back to the early 1990s. I started my first newspaper job when I left college. And I worked in Western Mass for years, and I worked here in Eastern Massachusetts. I worked for many years at the Boston Herald as a reporter and an editor and a columnist. And also I was a political and business commentator for the Fox 25 news also. So that was essentially my entire professional profile and career. But about 15 years ago, I transitioned into public relations and communications, and I worked for a company that for many years was called O'Neill and Associates, and then transitioned as a merger. We're now 7-letter ONA in Boston, and that's been an exciting way to support clients and learn a lot about a lot of different businesses, and use my sort of media strategy skills over the years. But I was always sort of fascinated by public service and by interacting in some way with the civil process of either the Commonwealth or your local government. And I also love the idea. Number one, I use words. I'm when I'm a writer, I'm a journalist, so I use words every day, and I feel like I felt like I could create pretty good words for something like a wedding ceremony. So 2017, I did my sister's wedding, and that was the first one. And then I've done a bunch since then. I became appointed by getting recommendations from some very fine members of this community right here in Belmont. and was appointed in 2017 by the Governor's Council and sworn in by the Secretary of State as the process goes. And I serve not just Belmont, but the entire Commonwealth, like all JPs. I'm a member of the Massachusetts Justice of the Peace Association. I've got my sign right outside my home at the corner of Palfrey Road and Common Street, and I love being part of that very important moment in a couple's lives right at the beginning. I love being part of that. I love delivering a good ceremony. It's been very interesting during the pandemic because so many weddings, big events were canceled, downsized to almost nothing. And a lot of people said, you know what, we need to go forward with the most important part of this. Well, we can always have a party, but let's go forward and enter marriage. And I was part of that for many, many, many couples, and it was a very special thing. So I love that. Yeah.
I was going to ask you how it was affected with the COVID. So people are still getting married.
Yes. Well, things are starting to normalize now, but during I guess I would call the height of the pandemic, it was you had to assume protocol very carefully with masks and social distancing. Did a lot of socially distanced weddings from 6 feet with a mask, but you're able to overcome that. And as I like to say, sometimes love can't wait, and people are like, let's do this right now. So I've done a lot of those weddings and marriages in small. I've got one coming up in a couple of weeks right outside Belmont Town Hall, which I'm really excited about. Just a handful of people on the green there. It'll be really nice. So it's been a really nice thing to do, and probably something that I see myself doing well into retirement.
Congratulations on this. It seems there's a passion in you when you talk about it. It must be some of our people watching that are interested in how to become a justice of peace. What's the training to become one?
That's a great question. I mean, the first thing you have to do is identify whether there is an opening. Like a lot of positions across the Commonwealth, they are assigned or apportioned by population and such. So there's a certain number per community or per region, and that's a matter of calling or visiting the Secretary of State's office and asking about a particular community where you live or a region. And if there's an opening, and then you go about applying for it. And the way you do that is you obtain an application from the Secretary of State's office. You fill that out in detail and truthfully, and you obtain recommendations and signatures from I think it's 4 people. That application then goes to the Governor's Council for review, and the Governor's Council makes those recommendations. The governor would then affirm that and make an appointment of that person. And then you'd be sworn in by the Secretary of State's office right at in the McCormick building downtown, or however they're doing swearings. And they've been doing Zoom swearing-ins, I believe, but again, life is normalizing. So I think we're going to see things in person more and more. As far as training, it's a great question. The Mass Justice of the Peace Association is an amazing resource, a tremendous group. The beginners training or the entry training for them is critical in order to give you not just the understanding, the rules and the skills, but quite frankly, the confidence. The very first marriage I did that I was hired to do or requested to do as a JP, I was very nervous. It's an important thing. It's not something you want to mess up. So the training that the association provides is really very strong, and I've really relied on them as a resource. And they have a Facebook group and annual and regular meetings. There's a lot of training available. There's also a lot of resources like anything else if you wanted to be a notary on YouTube or elsewhere. But there's a really good association that's a great resource. And by the way, just another terrific resource, and one of the things I love about the job is the interaction with city and town clerk's offices, and they can be really helpful and instructive. In fact, the first error I made, and hopefully it'll be the last, a town clerk said, "Oh, don't worry about it. We'll just print out another one and fix that for you on the license. But town clerks are a tremendous resource, and the interaction that I have with them in communities around Massachusetts, including Belmont, is another one of the highlights of this little public service avocation of being a justice of the peace. I really enjoy it. I like being in a city hall or a town hall just for a simple transaction of returning a marriage license and getting to meet the people in that office. They really perform such important duties, and it's a great thing.
Thank you. Has performing weddings changed the way you see marriage and engagement?
You know, I don't know if it's changed the way I see marriage. I see marriage as a very important commitment and a sacred institution. And when I say sacred, I mean between the individuals. It's a sacred commitment, and there doesn't have to be the presence of spirituality or God for something to be sacred, in my opinion. There certainly often is and can be. There was clergy at my wedding, but there doesn't have to be. And I think that I've always felt that way. But as far as marriages, as in weddings, it really has. It has really given me an appreciation for the importance of that moment where the vows are exchanged, and how that's really what it's all about. And because I'm someone that is called on to perform marriage ceremonies that might be very small, it might be just I've done many where it's just the partner A, partner B, the bride and groom, or the two partners entering marriage, and me by a lake out in a state park, in front of my own home, in front of town hall, or anywhere. And I've done very large weddings also. But that moment, whoever the officiant is really important for the bride and groom, and or for the partners entering marriage. And that's something I've really come to appreciate. I think when folks think of a wedding, they think of the big event, the big party, the big celebration, which is wonderful. But what's really, really important is that moment where they enter the bond of marriage. And being part of that is, it's been really great, and has changed my perspective.
Thank you. It has been really nice to talk to you. It seems like it's a great resource to have you as a friend and have joined the group in Facebook. And I was looking forward to any information to get into Zoom with some more and network. It's an important task as a community to get together. So thank you. Is anything you want to add?
Maribel, thank you so much for having me. This has been really, really nice. And there is, because I'm someone from a media background, and I'm really attentive to the media and to community news. And I honestly feel Belmont is incredibly fortunate at a time when community news and the importance of covering local news is becoming is as important or more than ever, but is really challenged by the economic models of the news business and the resources. And Belmont has just a terrific support system around Belmont Media and all the great programming that Belmont Media does. The Belmont Citizen Herald, again, existing. One of your colleagues, Joanna Jubilis, is the hardest working person, I think, in local journalism. She's got about 10 different hats. The Belmontonian also has a program, and Franklin Tucker runs that show. Look, it doesn't really matter what your perspective is or what you think of one or the other. The fact that it exists, the fact that it's there serving the community is so important. And I think Belmont is really fortunate. And I got to tell you, not every community is fortunate as Belmont to have the type of local media we do. And I really appreciate that, and I'm grateful for it. So thank you, and thanks for having me.
Thank you. Thank you. And that's it for today. I'm your host, Maribel Carvajal de Salazar. Have a good night. Bye-bye.